The Bankless State of the Nations are brought to you by YEARN. YEARN is DeFi's first self-building, community-run project, which I just get really excited about. YEARN is a system that seeks out yield in DeFi, and it does that in a number of different ways. A very aggressive way is with the vaults, where you can deposit your preferred asset of choice, and different DeFi experts will come in and generate a strategy for what to do with your deposited token, right? And so it'll go find ways to get yield in that deposited token in DeFi. For those who want to just earn yield on their stablecoins, the Earn system is for you, where you can deposit your preferred stablecoin and YEARN will go and figure out which money market on DeFi in DeFi is producing the best interest rate, whether it's DYDX, it's Compound, or Aave. It looks around DeFi to see where the yield is coming from, and it directs stablecoins automatically so you don't have to. Check them out at yearn.finance to get started, and also check out the stats page to see what other people are doing as well. We're also brought to you by MONOLITH. MONOLITH is your cool new DeFi account, your DeFi savings account, your DeFi checking account, except the cool thing about the MONOLITH DeFi account is that it gets software updates, right? You actually get to increase the usefulness of this over time. So here are some of the features. MONOLITH is a smart contract wallet with a lot of the features that you would expect if you've come to know DeFi and what it is. You can add money to it. You can put that money to work in Compound and accessing yield. But you can also swap through Uniswap. What was cool with MONOLITH is that they will send you a very sexy MONOLITH Visa card that connects to your MONOLITH smart contract wallet on Ethereum. So it's a really awesome tool to live a bankless life with a savings account that gets software updates. So this is something that you're never going to find out in the real world, but you can still do real world things with real money, like buy your groceries. So that's just fantastic. Coming soon to MONOLITH, actually already here to MONOLITH, is now you can buy DAI and get it sent to your wallet directly, right? So it's also being an on-ramp. So you don't have to go through your centralized exchange like Coinbase or Gemini or wherever. You can just go straight from your bank account right into your MONOLITH checking account smart contract wallet. So check them out at monolith.xyz. Welcome, Bankless Nation. I have David Rugendyke here from Rocketpool. David, welcome to the nation.
Hey, good morning. Good afternoon. Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, so David, Rocketpool is an interesting project that has a very strong connection with Ethereum itself, right? Which kind of, to me, sets it apart from most other projects because it has a relationship with like the core protocol. So David, can you kind of give the pitch of what's the problem that Rocketpool is trying to solve and what are its goals?
Well, it actually solves a couple of problems. So probably the most significant one is obviously the barriers to entry for staking Ethereum. I mean, 32 ETH is no short amount of money for any one person. I mean, and continuing Ethereum success, that will obviously increase as well. So that's going to make it harder in the future. So obviously being able to stake with less than 32 ETH, a pretty key component, especially for the ecosystem's health. I mean, we want as many people kind of contributing to, the staking process because it's obviously, the consensus mechanism for the new Ethereum 2.0. So security is a big factor there. And also the ability to stake without running a node. So that's kind of what ties into our RE token, which is a tokenized staking token, which you can basically hold and it gains rewards over time. So that's probably the two main barriers to entry, which is, it really will stop a lot of people now and in the future. So that's kind of what we're trying to get on top of. And also making sure that Rocketpool directly contributes to the health of the Ethereum ecosystem. So obviously, we're aiming to be a decentralized staking network, many different node operators obviously contributing towards the network security. So, rather than just being a central staking as a service provider or something like that, where everything's kind of held in one place, the Rocketpool network is designed to be very decentralized. And basically with our RETH token system too, if you sell your RETH, your ETH is actually still locked in Rocketpool, contributing to the security of the system anyway. So yeah, there's a couple of different facets we've kind of taken on there.
So it sounds like you guys are trying to solve decentralization in two specific vectors. Decentralization in enabling more people to be able to stake to Ethereum, right? By
Yeah.
reducing the threshold of the amount of ether that is needed to be owned by one particular individual. People, three plus people with 10, 12 ETH can all come together and stake together, or even an even wider network. And right, so as far as the security of the network goes, decentralization is expanded when you can have more participants. So that's one of the goals. And then the other goal is enabling more staking nodes at the same time, right? And so people have to have a computer where they stake their ETH, and that's how the network runs. And if many more people are staking their ETH, then the network is proliferated widely. But a lot of people don't want to stake at home, right? That there's, sometimes computers can be confusing, and especially running a blockchain. And so that also needs to be decentralized and still needs to be done by people. So this seems to be tackling two vectors of decentralization in two different ways, kind of with the same problem, which I think is kind of elegant.
Yeah, I mean, Rocketpool essentially aligns the interests of two different user groups. So you have those users that want to stake without running a node, like you just said, because it can be hard. I mean, we're running our beta right now. It's been going for about a week, and we get a lot of feedback, a lot of different questions on how to set up your node, how to security, and it's pretty obvious. It's a bit of a task for some people. So this is obviously a kind of pretty significant barrier to entry. If you need to run a node, you need to do it well, because you honestly incur penalties for downtime. Not significant penalties, but you still will lose rewards. So yeah, basically kind of overcoming those barriers through different ways is Rocketpool is kind of uniquely positioned where we're not a really direct competitor to any staking as a service provider, because these guys can actually run nodes in the Rocketpool network and contribute towards the health of the ecosystem, and also stake their own ETH at the same time, and basically enable users to stake with by just holding a token. So that's probably our two main facets that we're going for.
Fantastic. Now tell me a little bit about the beginnings of Rocketpool. Like, how did this whole effort come about?
Yeah, okay. So we're actually probably one of the OGs in the sector, going back. So the original thought for Rocketpool first occurred back kind of around the DAO, the original DAO that kind of imploded and resulted in a hard fork. So this is going back to about mid 2016, over 4 years ago now. So yeah, obviously back then, Ethereum 2 staking was looking to be a smart contract, not this new beacon chain that we have today. It was a different beast back then. So Rocketpool was basically designed to, I actually started designing Rocketpool at my old job. We didn't have a lot on at the time, so I kind of put my downtime to good use, and kind of built out an alpha version of Rocketpool, and then released that mid 2017. And that got a really good reception, and we basically started the journey from there. And obviously, mid 2017 was the start of the ICO boom, and the token sales craze. So that kind of catapulted the idea from then on, and we've been at it ever since. So well, luckily our first beta that actually was released mid 2018 came out the same week that they announced they're pivoting to the beacon chain approach. So that was timing wise. I wish they might have given us a little bit of a heads up on that one, but I mean, all the core concepts still carried over really well. We just obviously had to pivot a few things to work with this new beacon chain approach. It wasn't.
Did you guys still run the testnet?
Yeah, we did. I mean, why not? So you've gotten that far to get it, to get a working product people can try out. So it was the only time the existing proof of stake Casper smart contract was actually ever used. So the Ethereum Foundation had been working on this for quite some time, and so staking in Ethereum 2 did actually happen, to little people's knowledge. It only happened on our beta. So yeah.
Wow, that is one of the funnier stories I've heard about Ethereum. Okay, so on that note, Ethereum was presumed to go to proof of stake way earlier, which is kind of why you guys have such a big like history. And so what's it been like having to just follow Ethereum in development and just wait for it to get to where it needs to be so this product can be live? Like how you guys have had a team, like how has all the people like been able to stay focused when it's been such a long thing? Has there been work to do every step of the way?
Yeah, so actually we kind of operated until about 6 months ago, we were operating under a kind of a different model. So we had this Rocketpool 2.0 thing, which is basically our existing version where we switched from the smart contract proof of stake network to this new beacon chain one. So we called that Rocketpool 2.0, and that was in a pretty good place around January, February, towards the beginning of the year. But then we also came up with this kind of new tokenized staking approach, and that changed pretty much every facet of Rocketpool. So we basically had to go back, revisit a lot of our smart contracts. In fact, we rewrote them from the ground up and actually removed about 40% of the smart contracts due to this new kind of mechanic. It just simplified things so much. It was just one of those moments where the penny kind of drops and you're like, yep, this is the way we've got to do it. So we probably kind of put pencils down, went back to the smart contracts, rewrote them from the ground up, rewrote our node software from the ground up, and basically did all this in the last 4 to 5 months. So last 4 to 5 months have actually been really busy just because we had that massive change and, you know, infinitely for the better. So, and also working with the latest clients, the clients that come out, because we do allow, if you run a node in Rocketpool, we actually have a thing called a smart node stack, which you can install. It allows you to choose your ETH1, ETH2 client. And our goal is to kind of make sure that as many ETH2 clients, the stable ones, can be represented in our stack as possible. So working with these clients are bleeding edge software. I mean, their stuff changes weekly, bug fixes come out weekly. So just making sure that they still integrate with our own client correctly is a big challenge. And that's a weekly one that we face. So we just put out a beta update a day ago and found a breaking change that made it into the beta update for the way that the way that key stores are handled in one client. So yeah, so just stuff like that. I mean, it's a constant ongoing. It's bleeding edge, so you have to kind of roll with the punches anyway.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. You're like the first party I've heard of that has had to like tap into every single client and understand them from a technical level. I'm not even sure like each client does that themselves.
Yeah, exactly. So with the Rocketpool kind of network, we have our own client which kind of handles interactions with our smart contracts, you know, and things like that as well. And we also have a middleware client which basically interprets requests from our client into whichever Ethereum 2 client needs to go to. So if someone selected Lighthouse, this middleware layer will basically interpret requests from Rocketpool to the client the way it can actually read it. So because there is standards built into the Ethereum 2 clients at the moment, and they haven't always followed them, and some have the full standards, some don't. So we just kind of had to build this middleware layer till the standards kind of become a bit more mature, and that'll take some time. I mean, this is bleeding edge stuff, so we don't expect them to have this stuff, you know, nailed down on day one, and that's okay. So we've come up with a way to kind of handle that eloquently.
Fantastic. All right, so let's go into the actual construction of the Rocketpool network. So the Rocketpool, again, is solving two problems: many people who want to stake collectively and many nodes that want to operate and stake those funds, right? And so let's start with the nodes. So if that is the right place to start.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the nodes. Say I have a computer and I want to participate in Rocketpool staking. Like, how do I tap into the Rocketpool network and like signal that I am interested in staking the funds from Rocketpool?
Yep. Okay. So firstly, if you do want to run a node within Rocketpool, you only need 16 ETH per validate and not 32. So that's obviously another kind of reduction in barriers.
Do you have to stake at all? Can you just operate as a node, or do you have to have 16 ETH?
Unfortunately not, because if we didn't make sure, the reason why we could actually call them bonded validators. So they have a 16 ETH validation, 16 ETH of their own, which they bring. They can stake that fee free in the network. So we don't charge them anything for staking their own Ether for free. So let's say you had 32 ETH and you could run your own node solo. Or you can bring that into Rocketpool, split that up into 2 16 ETH validators, and you actually get a higher return for doing that as well. So
and I'm assuming that's how you guys achieve trustlessness, right? You're using that 50% stake as a mechanism to ensure that this individual does things honestly the way they should behave.
Yes,
that's their collateral. I'm assuming it can be slashed therefore as well.
That's exactly it. So yeah. Well, we call this economically bonded. So that's essentially, I mean, if they hurt the network, they hurt themselves just as much. And if they behave, they the most to gain because they get a higher return. They get stake their own ETH fee free. But yes, we do have insurance mechanisms built into the network. So let's say a node operator comes in, they stake 16 of their own ETH, 16 ETH from the front end of Rocketpool, which is users receiving RETH, to get node operators to stake for them. So this 16 ETH chunk comes from the network to a node operator. They then have 32 ETH, 16 from the network, 16 of their own. This obviously makes sure that they behave or they hurt themselves just as much. So they then stake this, and let's say they're a really terrible node operator. They go away on vacation somewhere, their node goes offline. After 2 weeks, they basically get ejected out of the Ethereum 2 system. And let's say they finish with, say like 18 ETH or something. Like they start off with 32, finish with 18. That's really terrible result. Fortunately for the network, we have built in our smart contracts where if you're a node operator, you obviously have the most to gain. I mean, you get fee-free staking and a bigger return. But if you're a really terrible node operator and you finish with less than 32 but greater than 16 ETH, in that case, from your original 16 ETH deposit, the missing ETH is actually sourced from there for the network. So the network doesn't gain anything by you being a terrible node operator, but it also doesn't lose anything. So the node operator has as much to gain, but more to lose if they're really, really terrible.
Okay, that's a really elegant and simple design. Okay, so let's go to the other half of the equation where I'm an individual who I have 8 ETH and I need help from other people that have 8 or more ETH to stake. How does this work?
Okay, so if you have 8 ETH, it depends if you want to run a node. So if you have 8 ETH and you don't want to run a node, you can just send it to our smart contracts in about 2 clicks and you'll have RETH, which is basically a tokenized staking. You can basically hold on to this for as long as you want and it will gain staking rewards over time, minus the commissions that are paid to the node operators who are staking this ETH for the network. So that's beyond the simplest way to do that. If you just have 8 ETH, if you have 8 ETH and you want to be a node operator, this is slightly tricky. You probably have to team up with someone else who has 8 ETH and then get someone to run that node in the network. So is that
an explicit function that you guys are working on, or is that just like something that someone can do?
For the RETH holder or for say
for like 2 people with 8 ETH together who want to stake. Is that like something that you guys think about, or is that kind of just like an edge case?
That is something we can think about. So obviously in 8 ETH in the future, or even 16 ETH could be worth a lot. So that may even be bigger barriers to entry for node operators in the network. Luckily, we do kind of have incentives for node operators to make sure that they are well compensated. I mean, if they do have to pony up 16 ETH, and that is a lot in the future, they will still get a pretty significant return by operating in Rocketpool versus operating out of it based on I'll just give a very quick kind of overview on how we kind of reward node operators. So
go into the fee dynamics.
So Rocketpool works off supply and demand mechanics. So we do try to keep things as simple as possible much of the time. So if there's a lot of ETH coming in the front end from people who are depositing in the smart contracts and receiving RETH, let's say that there's a big backlog, like a couple of thousand ETH waiting to be assigned to node operators, but not many node operators are kind of coming to the table and meeting the demand. In that case, we have a dynamic commission ratio, which adjusts to kind of incentivize node operators to join. So if there's a lot of supply, there's a lot of demand, but little supply on the node operator side, then the commission for staking this ETH goes up. So obviously it goes up considerably if there's a lot of demand, but not much supply. So
is that fixed?
We have caps on that at the moment. So this is something that we're actually going to kind of model out originally. So for the beta, we have a cap of a minimum of 2% to the node operators and a maximum of 20% of the rewards. And
but can it fluctuate over time? Because you're saying incentivizing people when there is high demand for staking but low supply, those stakers can be paid more. How long does that last? How long does that bonus last?
Okay, so this is why it's a very attractive thing for a node operator. So that bonus lasts as long as the node operator stakes that ETH. So that's a very attractive. I mean, this is why, because it's obviously a lot more work to be a node operator versus it is to be, just receive a token for staking. Sure. So we need these guys to kind of be active and proactive at staking this ether. So that's a really desirable kind of commission. So if you can earn a commission, say at the maximum 20% of the rewards earned on that 16 ETH chunk of ether that node operator is staking, they can stake that for years at a time if they want. So that is a very, very attractive proposition, and it needs to be.
And where do those returns come from? So do they all does it is the fees being paid to this individual that like
Yep.
scored with high let's just like got it at the right moment, right? Like locked
Yep.
in a really advantageous like rate. Who's paying that? It's not any one particular individual, it's the network, right? It's the collective.
Yeah. So it's the collective of RETH holders which are essentially paying that. So RETH is just that tokenized staking or staking token which you hold. So the rate that it gains rewards is affected by how much commission is being paid to node operators, because that comes out of the rewards that's staking that ether that is earned. So I mean, if everyone's staking, let's say the maximum is at 20% and it's at that for a really long time, it will just very smallly kind of slow down the amount of rewards that RETH is earning, because a lot of commission is being paid to the node operators who are staking on behalf of RETH holders. So
but
that's
it could never go above that, right? Like the stakers who have locked in a really good interest rate could never actually pull out more from the system than the system's actually collecting.
No, that's it. So, I mean, they get 20% too. That commission rate actually comes out of their own efforts as well. So if you get a really high commission block, say 20%, and you're a really bad node operator, and you only finish with, you know, like say 1 ETH in profit, you only get 20% of the rewards earned on that 1 ETH. So they are very much motivated to perform as well if they do get a high commission block.
Okay, cool. All right. And then the other side of this dynamic is that there's a high supply of stakers and not much people demanding staking. What happens in this environment?
Yeah. In this environment, okay, so the commission rate obviously goes down because there's a lot of supply, you know, not much demand. So basically in that case, it's obviously very, very much on the network as a whole to kind of lower this rate to attract stakers that want to deposit and basically capitalize on a small commission that's being paid to node operators currently. So that would make getting RETH at that time more valuable, because it, you know, not as much commission is being paid to node operators. So yeah, as a collective of RETH holders, your best bet would be to get it while the commissions are low, because it increases its rewards quicker at that time. So yeah, it's basically just supply and demand mechanics.
Okay, so let's go into how the tokens work. So our ETH is a claim on Ether that's being staked, right? So it's kind of like CDAI in the compound version, where compound has like its interest baked into the DAI token, and then they make the CDAI. And you guys have our ETH for Rocketpool ETH. Is there anything different about that model, or are those like pretty much one-to-one?
CDAI is actually quite similar. So it basically the thing with RETH is it's the rate that it increases rewards depends on an entire decentralized network of anonymous node operators. So it is a little bit different in that regard, but yeah, very conceptually similar. It will obviously increase in value over time. So what you'll have a static amount. So this is kind of the way RETH works from a distribution point of view. So if you get in on, say, day 1 of Rocketpool opening and you deposit and you got some RETH, you came back a week later, deposited the same amount, you get a smaller amount the second time you deposited, even though you're depositing the same amount of ETH. And that's kind of one way that it increases in value over time is you get less and less and less the longer Rocketpool runs. So that's kind of the way that works. And
it gets less and less. What's the mechanism that is, or the oracle that is providing the information to how much less that amount should be?
Okay, that's a really good question. We actually have 2 types of nodes in the Rocketpool network. So we have bonded nodes. These are the nodes that, you know, the ones we've been talking about, the one that need to pony up 16 ETH. They can be anywhere, anyone. And we also have trusted nodes. Now, trusted nodes are nodes that act as oracles in the Rocketpool network. They carry a few extra duties. Obviously, they need to report back validated balances from the ETH2 chain to the ETH1 chain, because there is no bridge between that yet. So that's a gap. So our aim is basically to bootstrap the Rocketpool network with a bunch of different trusted node providers from, you know, ourselves, you know, other interested parties such as Consensus and any big DeFi kind of DApp that wants to plug into Rocketpool, you know, at least a dozen or so very kind of high profile public figures that basically want to run these trusted nodes. So these trusted nodes under our tokenomics also receive RPL, which is our native platform token, for providing this service as well. So it's actually it's a paid position to perform Oracle duties for the network. And the way we kind of guarantee that the data being relayed back from ETH2 to ETH1 is that all these nodes need to agree, or at least 50% of these nodes, sorry, need to agree on data being pulled back. So that's kind of a really good way to have a decentralized trusted node network operating within Rocketpool. Is to do that, because to make sure one party can't really cheat the system and say, my validator, 600 ETH in the last session. So that protects against that pretty much. So yeah, that's a really good question. That's pretty much how we're handling it at this point.
Okay, so that's like kind of the frontier of development for you guys. Is that kind of what you implied?
Yeah, so that's a very bleeding edge kind of stuff as well for us, because once sharding comes into place and a few other these things are potentially more connected, we might be able to do away with some of these Oracle duties, but not for a few years at least, because there's that big gap in the rollout of the phases of Ethereum 2.0. So
right.
Yeah, they will be needed for some time.
And is that kind of the main role and function of the RPL token, or does the RPL token do other things as well?
We actually have done some really big changes to our tokenomics just recently. So we have FireEyes, which is a group that did Aave's tokenomics recently. We've been working with them for the last 3 months to kind of come up with ways to incentivize users to obviously participate in Rocketpool, and also to protect against slashing conditions. So that's something we didn't touch on earlier. We touched on penalties where they finish with less than 32 ETH, but greater than 16. But under that scenario, if your deposit is wiped out, the network can't be compensated because there's no ether to give the network once that node operator has been slashed. So this is a change we've actually only just announced like a week ago, is these new tokenomics where you can essentially collateralize your node with RPL, and this goes into basically an insurance pool for the network. The more you collateralize your node with RPL will affect your node receiving better commission chunks over other nodes. So basically, you're guaranteeing the network you have more insurance for the network. So if you get slashed, your RPL will be automatically sold on the market. That ether will then be given back to the network to replace the missing ETH. So these people which are actually putting up this insurance through RPL will get rewarded through native RPL being distributed through our token as well, and same as the trusted node providers. So it's a really kind of interesting dynamic now, where if you stake with Rocketpool in a decentralized network, you can get ether on your own staking, and you can also earn RPL, which will be used for decentralized governance shortly into the future, which is something else we've just recently announced as well.
Okay, well, let's go right into that. Tell us about the governance over the system. What are the most important things that need to be governed over?
Excellent. So we actually did touch on this not too long ago, actually, as well. So it's been a really fruitful discussion. The commission rates. So obviously the minimum and maximum commission rates, which are assigned to node operators, these need a human interaction. So it's not something you can gauge. You can't just let this hit 100% commission or anything like that. So because obviously our ETH holders will just abandon the token because they wouldn't be getting any rewards. So we need sensible minimum and maximums based on how the network is currently doing. And currently we will obviously be doing that in the early phases as we watch kind of the network mature. But our long-term goal is to hand over Rocketpool to the community in a DAO fashion. So the DAO fashion will vote on certain mechanics, such as the minimum and maximum commission rates based on how the network is currently doing. So it won't just be us making the calls. It would be basically any RPL holder or anyone with a node operator that's staking RPL will be able to kind of contribute towards this vote. And that's a really good way to ensure vested interests are paying attention to the network. Because if you're a node operator in Rocketpool, you will be paying attention because your income depends on it.
Even more so than like staking yourself outside of the system. Yeah. Even more than that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you have a vested interest in the health of the network as well as your own node at that point. So you will be very kind of compelled to make sure there's sensible minimum and maximums because it directly affects your bottom line. So that's a really good way to ensure that our node operators are rewarded for basically being part of Rocketpool through getting RPL, but they also make sensible decisions based on behalf of the network.
ZAPPER is this new tool that I use to check out all of my assets in DeFi. As you guys have known, DeFi has absolutely exploded recently, and so managing your assets is getting harder and harder because there's so many different places and so many different assets that it could be. So I'm going to put my Ethereum address in here, and ZAPPER is going to tell me where all of my assets are across Ethereum, right? So here are all of the assets in this wallet. There's a decent amount of them. And it's also going to tell me where I've deposited assets into various DeFi protocols, right? So there's some yield farming going on. There's some liquidity pooling going on. We can also look more granularly at the specific protocols that it's involved with in this Explore feature. So it's got some assets deposited into Uniswap. It's got some assets deposited into Balancer. And also with ZAPPER, you can just exchange straight from the ZAPPER interface, right? So this is just another layer on top of Uniswap or other exchanges on Ethereum that allow you to swap assets, right? So check them out at zapper.fi. It'll give you a nice clean portal to invest your assets in DeFi. And you can also connect to multiple wallets if you use multiple wallets all at once, and it'll give you an aggregate of every single wallet that you own. Check them out at zapper.fi. Also, this is definitely not my wallet. Unstoppable Domains is helping the world become censorship resistant and permissionless. If you are looking for a censorship resistant website that no one can take down, go to unstoppabledomains.com and type in the domain that you think that you want. So I'm going to type in the domain that I think that I want, trustless state, and it's going to tell me some of the options that I can get to get a permissionless domain, trustlessstate.crypto. And so what you can do with trustlessstate.crypto or whatever domain that you want is you can purchase it, and then it can be a URL that you direct people to that no nation state can take down. That's what Unstoppable Domains is all about. What's also really helpful with Unstoppable Domains is that wallets can integrate unstoppable domains so that the addresses that you send your crypto assets to can become human readable. And this doesn't work for just Ethereum. You also can do this for Bitcoin or Litecoin or any blockchain at all, where wallets can resolve to your human readable name. So you can tell Bitcoiners to send you Bitcoin to trustlessstate.crypto or yournamehere.eth. Check them out at unstoppabledomain.com. So David, before I move on, is there any other kind of component to the architecture of Rocketpool that we haven't yet touched on?
I think we've done pretty well,
that was a pretty efficient run through.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I could do this in my sleep at this point. Yeah, I think from the top of my head, no, we covered trusted nodes, bonded nodes, we covered stakers, READABLE holders, RPL. I think we're doing pretty good.
That's pretty good. Okay, so I have one last question for you then. So there is a bunch of staking as a service companies like Bison Trails, some other ones, Staked, for example, where they offer more or less the same service, but it's kind of like the BlockFi model or like the centralized model where they just have a big computer and there's just one computer, and there was somebody who wrote, I think it was Dan Elitzer, who wrote a piece that talked about how centralization around staking as a service companies is going to come as a result of the token that is inevitably going to be issued by these staking as a service companies from people that stake their ETH there, right? And so say Coindesk Coinbase spins up a staking as a service company and says, hey, you can deposit your Ether with us, you will receive this Coindesk Ether. And the author of this article, I'm pretty sure it was Dan, said that people that because people are going to inevitably use these things because they are capital efficient, it's all going to converge into one centralized staking as a service company, and that's bad because that's centralization. Do you have an opinion on how this might go or what should happen instead?
RETH is especially the decentralized version of that, which is beautiful because RETH is backed by a decentralized network of node operators, and these node operators can't be staking as a service providers. In fact, it's in their best interest to join the Rocketpool network because if they already have an ample supply of ETH they need to stake, they can increase the return for their own clients by running Rocketpool nodes. So this is actually, I talked to a number of staking as a service providers over the last year. I still talk to them on quite a regular basis. We actually have a few of them participating in our beta right now. And, like I said earlier, we're kind of not a direct compare to anyone, but we manage to kind of serve stakers and node operators at the same time, even staking service providers, which some might view us as a competitor to, but they can join the network and do better for themselves than they would outside of it. So I can't see how that's really being a direct competitor, but, these guys also might be running trusted nodes in the future, which we did touch on because these guys are professionals at what they do, and we do want professionals running trusted nodes. So yeah, bootstrapping the network with a bunch of high-profile staking service providers, as well as groups like Rocketpool, Consensus, a few other pretty big names in the industry, is something we are aiming to do. And we're still talking to these guys at this point, and I won't name which ones, but some pretty big ones that would be actually participating in Rocketpool.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting component of the story of Ethereum that I don't think many people discuss. Are you familiar with the protocol sync thesis?
I'm not, no.
Okay, so yeah, this is a thesis that me and Ryan like kind of chew on and spit out together. And so the protocol sync thesis is the belief that protocols on Ethereum, DeFi protocols of any sort, you know, borrowing and lending applications like Compound, or, you know, whatever you would call like MakerDAO, like a bank or whatever, they are DeFi versions of their like real life correlates, right? Except the DeFi versions have these features or characteristics that are attractive for companies to build on top of in lieu of not actually wanting to build with a different company, right? And so both Coinbase and Binance can seek to provide their customers returns on their assets by leveraging DeFi protocols, right? But no exchange would would leverage each of it. No exchange would leverage each other because that's your competitor, right? But people aren't competitors with protocols. That's not how protocols work. They are like, they are credibly neutral. They are permissionless. They're trustless. And so the protocol sync thesis is that things that are protocols sync down to the bottom of the centralized companies. And so the companies end up building on top of the decentralized protocols and use them as utilities. That seems to be what you seem to be describing to me as well.
That's exactly it. So that's kind of the way we've modeled Rocketpool with RETH as well. So RETH, getting a token that stakes, we wanted this to be incredibly simple. And I think we've really accomplished that with this at the moment. So if you have ETH and you send it to Rocketpool smart contracts, you receive RETH in the same transaction. So that's it. It's one transaction and you have a staking token. So imagine the DeFi world, imagine decentralized exchanges that weren't previously be able to offer staking for Ether that they might hold. They can now do that with a decentralized staking network, which wasn't possible before. Because imagine if you had a decentralized exchange, you can't trust a centralized provider to provide staking services for a decentralized. It just won't happen. So now these smart contract based apps can basically build on top of Rocketpool and offer staking. So that's kind of the route that we're going, is basically a base application layer for staking and have things built on top of us. So that's kind of the aim that we're going for. Awesome.
Well, David, you guys are on a mission that could not be more aligned with Ethereum and the Bankless Nation. So we thank you for coming on to the Meet the Nation in order to meet the nation.
Mate, that was an absolute pleasure. We covered a lot of ground. So yeah, that was really good.
Okay, so if people want to learn more or people want to join the Rocketpool community, where should they go?
Actually, you can all try out our beta right now. We have one that started a week ago, or just over a week ago, at beta.rocketpool.net. And in its first week, it now has, I think, over 140,000 Ether staked in it. So there's a lot of node operators. We have a network map you can click on. You can see basically all the countries competing, or all the regions competing against each other. I think Europe and North America are currently almost neck and neck for who's staking the most. Cool. So it kind of gives you a really good visual overlay of the Rocketpool network and how it's decentralized.
That's actually really cool. Wow, that's a great visualization. I'd love to see that on Twitter one day. I'm sure it'll get there.
Yeah.
All right, Dave. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure, mate. Yeah. Thank you very much.